And I thought, well, it's the same old story, but we really need to start asking questions. So I butted in, and I said, excuse me, you're saying that you want to change all this. You want to ask the leaders not to. I said, what right do you have to ask sovereign leaders of sovereign nations what to discuss and what not? We started talking about it, and then two of his colleagues, the actual West Papuans, interrupted the High Commissioner's answer to my question, and then they started, talking about the 40 years they've had of having to deal with this, and nobody and one of them started shouting and even went as far as to tell us to shut up. But I persisted in my line of questioning. I said, we're hearing a lot of things that are happening in West Papua. And they said, nothing is happening, everything is right. I said, what about the deaf journalists? What about the people being killed in West Papua? And then they just took off. And by then I had, I realized that it wasn't going to be anything but a slinging match.
It got very heated, didn't it? Whose fault was that, do you think?
Well, nobody's fault, really. I suppose they got hot under the collar because I had asked what right the Indonesians had of telling the Pacific leaders what to discuss at their meeting. For me, the West Papuans got upset because, someone was asking questions of Indonesia, and I don't know, they may be on the Indonesian. I know they are being paid by the Indonesian government. So my questioning was really aimed at the High Commissioner until both of them started butting in.
At the end, the Indonesian ambassador said that he would be happy to organise for Pacific journalists to go to West Papua to see the situation for themselves. Is that something that you think would be a positive move? And if so, would you go on such a trip?
I don't know. You're a journalist. What kind of a trip is that? 5-star hotels with all the trimmings and never get to see the real issues that are happening. And it's not a trip that I would consider going on. I mean, it's nice of them to offer, but we all know what's going to happen. 5-star hotels and all the treatment and that goes with it, and you never get to see the actual problems that are happening. I'd like to go, but it's certainly not paid for by the Indonesian, and I don't think any sensible journalist would want to do that.
Do Pacific Island journalists have enough information about what's going on in West Papua? Is it, as the Indonesian ambassador suggests, a bit more complicated than good guys versus bad guys?
I think a lot of the young journalists are getting, a lot of people are getting used to using the internet for research and finding the right sites to do research. I think a lot of the Pacific journalists are getting to the stage where they are able to learn more about what's happening around the world than just the little Pacific region. I think they are much more informed with the advent of the internet and the web.
In the wake of that confrontation between yourself and the Indonesians at the forum, what kind of a response did you get from other journalists and other people in Samoa and around the Pacific?
I was surprised when I read the reaction from Langi, presuming that it was her interview, and yet we were told there was a press conference called up.
Well, the journalist that we spoke to, Langi Kirasoma, said that she was doing an interview with them, and then other people, including yourself, sort of came along, that it wasn't actually a press conference. She actually felt that you'd kind of hijacked her interview.
Well, we were made to believe that someone came in and told us that there's a press conference with the Indonesian. And so we went. If there was a private interview, we weren't told about it, but we were told that there's a press conference with the Indonesians, and that's why we went. And I thought, well, it's the same old story, but we really need to start asking questions. So I butted in, and I said, excuse me, you're saying that you want to change all this. You want to ask the leaders not to. I said, what right do you have to ask sovereign leaders of sovereign nations what to discuss and what not? We started talking about it, and then two of his colleagues, the actual West Papuans, interrupted the High Commissioner's answer to my question, and then they started